guys, here's Magdalena Fręch. See you guys tomorrow.
Also, she takes part of the learning experience. She's too good a player. She'll figure it out. Her resilience.
My game plan, change directions and serve really well, so we'll see.
Something is happening in women's tennis right now that the sport's own systems were never built to handle. And the person at the center of it is a 20-year-old from the Philippines who tomorrow walks onto the clay courts of Rome, carrying a ranking of 42 in the world and a following that makes that number look almost laughable. Her name is Alexandra Eala. And before you say anything, no, this is not another hype video. This is about something far more specific, far more strange, and honestly far more fascinating than that. Because what is unfolding around this young woman is not just a feel-good story about a rising star from an underrepresented country. It is a live, ongoing collision between how professional tennis has always measured importance and what importance actually looks like when you step outside the spreadsheet and into the real world. And that collision just produced one of the most extraordinary things anyone has said out loud in this sport in years. A current WTA Tour professional, someone who laces up her shoes and competes in these same tournaments, a former world number 21 who has spent over a decade watching this sport from the inside, went on social media and said that if she were running a tournament, she would restructure her entire event around one player. Not Aryna Sabalenka. Not Coco Gauff. Not Iga Swiatek. Alexandra Eala. A player ranked 42nd in the world. Let that sit for a second. Now let's back up and understand exactly how we got here, because the full picture is wilder than any single headline. 6 weeks ago, in March of this year, Eala reached a career-high ranking of 29. She has since slipped to 42, partly because clay has not been kind to her this season, but we will get to that. What matters right now is that she enters the 2026 Italian Open, which begins tomorrow on May 5th at the Foro Italico in Rome, having earned her place directly in the main draw. Not on a wild card. Not through qualifying. She is there because she belongs there. Her first-round opponent is Magdalena Fręch of Poland. One match at a time. But the Roman clay is just the latest chapter in a story that started making noise back in January, and it has not stopped since. Cast your mind back to the Australian Open. January 19, 2026. Eala is making her Grand Slam main draw debut. She is ranked 49 in the world at the time. Tennis Australia runs its standard court assignment process, a logical, ranking-based system that has served the sport perfectly well for decades. The numbers point to Court 6. A solid outer court. A sensible decision on paper. Nobody in that office could have predicted what was about to happen. Melbourne has one of the largest Filipino communities anywhere outside the Philippines itself. And those people had been waiting for this moment, not for months, but for years. By the time Eala stepped onto that court, the system had already failed. Security was overwhelmed. Fans were being turned away at the gate. People without tickets found big screens around Melbourne Park and just stood there, watching anyway. And inside the court, the atmosphere was so intense, so loud, so relentless that the chair umpire had to repeatedly warn the crowd for noise, not between games, not at changeovers, but during actual live points. That does not happen on Court 6. That barely happens in the final week of a Grand Slam. Tennis Australia had to issue a public statement. Eala lost the match. And nobody, not one person covering this sport, led with the scoreline. They led with the crowd. Because the crowd was the story. Because what happened that day in Melbourne was the sport's own infrastructure raising its hand and admitting, in front of global cameras, that it did not have a category for what Alexandra Eala is. Ben Rothenberg was there. If you follow tennis at all, you know that name. Former New York Times tennis correspondent. Author of the Bounces newsletter, which has become one of the most respected voices covering this sport in any language. He is not a hype merchant. He is not a content creator chasing clicks. His professional reputation is built entirely on being precise and being right. The day after the Melbourne match, he posted something that changed the temperature of the entire conversation. He said he was genuinely wondering if Alexandra Eala might already be the most popular player in women's tennis. And then he wrote a full newsletter piece where he stopped wondering and started concluding. The title was direct. Alexandra Eala is the most popular player in tennis right now. Not the most popular rising player. Not the most popular player from Asia. The most popular player in tennis. Full stop. Read that again, because the person writing it matters as much as the words themselves. This was not a fan account. This was not Philippine media celebrating one of their own. This was the most credible independent English-language voice in tennis journalism sitting down after watching what he saw and writing what he believed to be true. 3 weeks later, the story moved to Abu Dhabi. The Mubadala Abu Dhabi Open, a WTA 500 event. Eala was playing on a wild card. Not seeded. Not one of the marquee names on the poster. And yet the stadium was sold out. She played Alexandra Sasnovich and found herself down 4-0 in the third set. Then 5-2. A match point against her. And then something shifted. She saved it. She clawed her way back and won, 7-5 in the third, in one of the most emotionally charged matches of the early season. What happened next is the moment this entire story crystallizes around. Because in her on-court interview, live microphone, crowds still roaring behind her, Eala looked out at the full stadium and said something that nobody scripted and no marketing department could ever manufacture. She said, "Selling out stadiums is insane." 4 words. That is your whole story in 4 words. Not from a journalist, not from an analyst, not from a sponsor. From the 20-year-old herself, standing in the middle of a phenomenon she is still visibly surprised to be at the center of. That genuine disbelief, that authentic awe from someone who is actually living it, hits differently than anything anyone else could have said about her. And then came Daria Saville. Australian professional. Former world number 21. Former Australian women's number 1. She is not a pundit. She is not retired. She is someone who plays in these same tournaments, walks these same locker rooms, watches crowds at these events week after week and knows, as well as anyone alive, what normal looks like. Saville posted a reaction to the Abu Dhabi footage on Instagram, and what she said was not praise. It was a professional assessment. She said that Eala is selling out stadiums in singles and doubles alike, at tournaments that previously struggled for attendance, and that if she were a tournament director, she would do absolutely anything to have Eala at her event. She would put her on the schedule every single day, singles and doubles both, because the fans come to watch Alex and then they stay for more tennis. She said you can see it in the crowd numbers. She said the Filipinos are showing up for their girl. Think about the specificity of that statement. This is a competitor. Someone with her own sponsors, her own career, her own ranking to protect. She has nothing commercial to gain from this. And she sat down and publicly declared she would rebuild an entire tournament calendar around someone else. That is not a compliment. That is a reckoning. By the time Indian Wells rolled around in March, the pattern had become impossible to ignore or explain away. Reports from the BNP Paribas Open described Eala drawing crowds to her practice sessions that were bigger than those gathered to watch Carlos Alcaraz and Coco Gauff. Not one of them. Both of them. The 2 biggest box office names in contemporary tennis combined. Eala told Front Office Sports after her opening round win there that she never expected this kind of fan base rallying behind her, that it is an incredible privilege, and that it is not something your everyday person gets to experience. The humility in that quote is real. She is still processing it. She is 20 years old and she is still working out the distance between her ranking and her reality. And then Forbes got involved. They published an interview with Jean-Christophe Verboorg, the global sports marketing director at Babolat, the racket company that sponsors Eala. This man is not new to this conversation. He is the same person who watched Li Na happen from inside the boardroom. Li Na, if you need the context, was the first Asian woman to win a Grand Slam. When she won the French Open in 2011, more than 116 million people in China watched the final. She did not just win a tournament. She turned China into a tennis country. She generated endorsement deals worth $24 million a year, and she reshaped the entire commercial geography of the WTA. Verboorg was inside that story. He watched it unfold from within his own company. And when Forbes asked him about Eala, he said, and this is the part that should stop you in your tracks, that it is a little bit crazy what is happening with her, because in theory she is from a small tennis country, and yet every single tournament she plays, the reaction is crazy. The man who witnessed the Li Na effect is using the word crazy to describe this. He is not doing it casually. He is doing it because after what he saw Li Na do for 1 billion Chinese fans, he is now watching something similar begin to take shape for 115 million Filipinos at home and another 10 million spread across diaspora communities from Melbourne to London to the Middle East. And this is where the story becomes genuinely historic rather than simply impressive. In January 2026, the WTA sanctioned the very first professional women's tennis tournament ever held on Philippine soil. A WTA 125 event, the Philippine Women's Open. It exists because of one person. The WTA publicly called it a resounding success. Think about what that means in real terms. Eala did not just inspire young Filipinos to pick up a racket. She caused the physical geography of the sport to change. She added her country to the map. That is what the Li Na comparison is really about. Not the sold-out stadiums alone, not the sponsorship deals alone. The map. Li Na put China on the map. Eala is putting the Philippines on it. And the WTA, to its credit, is paying attention. The organization's senior communications director called Eala remarkable on and off the court and acknowledged publicly that the WTA is actively working to find what she called a perfect balance between Eala's exploding media and sponsor demands and the long-term development of her career. When a sports governing body uses the phrase perfect balance, what they are really saying is we know exactly what we have and we are being very careful not to break it. Now, this channel does not deal in fairy tales. And the full story of Eala's 2026 season demands honesty. The clay has been hard. At Miami in late March, she lost to Carolina Muchova 6-love, 6-2. At Stuttgart in April, Leylah Fernandez beat her 6-1, 6-4. At Madrid on April 24th, she fell to Elise Mertens 6-2, 6-1. 3 consecutive heavy losses with scorelines that no one is going to frame and put on the wall. At Linz, she led Yelena Ostapenko 5-1 in the second set and still lost. The clay is not giving her what the hard courts gave her earlier this season, and that matters enormously because Rome is clay. Roland Garros is clay. This stretch of the calendar is the examination. But here is the thing about Alex Eala that keeps serious people from writing her off. After the Madrid loss, she did not pull out of Rome to protect her ranking. She did not rest. She went back to the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca and she worked. Greg Rusedski, former world number 4, current tennis analyst, watched her this season and said what a lot of people in the sport are quietly thinking. He said she is too good a player, she will figure it out. He said he likes her resilience. And those two things, the quality and the resilience, are not in dispute even among those who watched her struggle on the red clay. She is in Rome because she earned it and because she chose to be there. What happens next on the surface, against Fręch in round 1 and potentially much further beyond, is the question the sport is now holding its breath for. Because the Italian Open and Roland Garros that follows are the 2 remaining tournaments where she can accumulate the ranking points to push back into the top 32. And a top 32 seeding at a Grand Slam is not symbolic. It is structural protection. It means the draw machinery, the very same system that once looked at her ranking and sent her to court 6 in Melbourne, would finally have to place her on the biggest courts from the very first round. It would mean the crowd finally gets the stage it has been demanding since January. So here is where everything lands. Alex Eala has done something that athletes almost never do. She has exposed the gap between how a sport measures value and how the world actually experiences it. The ranking said court 6. The crowd said thousands. The rankings said wild card. The crowd said sold out. The rankings said practice courts. The crowd said louder than Alcaraz. A fellow professional said she would rebuild her tournament around this player. The sport's most trusted independent journalist said she is the most popular player in tennis and it is not even close. The man who watched Li Na remake Chinese tennis from inside Babolat's boardroom called it crazy and meant it as the highest available compliment. And Eala herself, fresh from saving a match point in front of a roaring full stadium, looked out at the crowd she still cannot quite believe is there and said 4 words that told you everything you need to know. Tomorrow she steps onto the clay in Rome. Roland Garros is a few weeks behind it. The seeding is within reach. And the story is nowhere near its final chapter. The question worth sitting with is this. Is Alex Eala already the most important player in women's tennis, regardless of ranking, regardless of titles? Or does she need a grand slam to make the argument complete? Drop your answer below. Because the experts are going off, the crowds are not going anywhere, and Rome starts tomorrow.